Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat. Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by Sambo and Johnny. How are we, chaps?
Good. Very well. How are you doing?
Oh, exceedingly good. Johnny hasn't got the grey beanie memo tonight. He's
I haven't.
rocking an unsheathed head.
My hair keeps me warm enough.
Fair enough. On the show tonight, Cats dismantled the power in round 10. Then we'll jump over to Patreon. If you haven't grasped this by now, consult your GP. News wrap, round 11 preview. That stuff's on the Patreon. You can go over, sign up for a 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew Patreon if you want the stuff that happens after the public show. So that's what's on the show tonight.
How do we get the stuff before the public show? What's the next step where you can tune in before the public show starts?
I mean, we make the joke a lot, but it's probably on OnlyFans, really. It's probably on OnlyFans. Yeah.
You get the pan back angle from the corner of each of our studios where it reveals we're all recording this with our pants on.
Yeah. And then we send you photos of our cat's paws.
Oh, didn't know where we were going.
Yeah,
when John starts saying, we'll send you photos of.
And then he said our cats. And even then, I thought we were in uncharted territory. Didn't know which body part of the cat was getting
sexual proclivities.
Just a pause.
Just the pause. All right. There's much to get into on the show tonight. Real weird improv little intro here. I like it.
It is.
It's taken some turns.
It's
I
different.
Didn't expect it to go.
It's nice.
Unusual.
Yes. We won't get into a full Eurovision recap. We don't need to. But all I'll say is there needs to be an inquisition launched as to why Iceland didn't get a single jury vote. Really? Absolutely fucking outrageous. All right, let's get into the show itself. The meat of it. People have arrived, ready for the girth. We better give it to them. But before we do that, we've got to get a quick thank you for our glorious Media Network sponsors. The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase. Alrighty then. Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I want to hurt, I want to hurt, I want to hurt, I want to hurt, I want to really, really, really want to beat the shit out of Port Adelaide. So sang the Spice Girls on their 1996 slammer, Wannabe. Wetness is the essence of water, and water is the essence of life. But on the weekend, it was wetness that stymied skilled ball movement early and forced a big crowd at Adelaide Oval to edge for nearly 16 minutes before Jack Bowes and Ollie Dempsey went bang, bang to open the goal kicking. Port Adelaide found responses via the boots of hyphenated heroes Darcy Byrne-Jones and Sam Powell-Pepper, but Tom Atkins' toughness earned the rough-edged tackling machine a rare as hen's teeth goal to give the Cats a deserved 3-1-19 to 2-4-16 lead at quarter time. Subs were activated and benches for both teams depleted as cool conditions saw a collection of hamstrings twanged for Horn Francis, Patrick Dangerfield and Jack Bowes. Thankfully, Geelong are required to write woeful sonnets updating injuries on the club's website, or the average punter would have been powerless to ascertain the cause of the ailments, apparently lacking functioning eyeballs in the opinion of the AFL. Something medium term. Ready for a goal-kicking orgy? Well, two fucking bad TikTok attention span generation. A grueling second term yearned for a major for nearly 19 minutes before Port Adelaide's Bronson cosplayer Pal Pepper split the uprights to give the home team a slim lead. It would be their final time in front for the afternoon. Diagnosed by the doctors in the commentary box as being stricken with an incurable bout of game-ending smallpox, Jeremy Cameron rose from his sickbed to boot the final 2 goals of the first half, leaving a grisly Uncle Fester in Port Adelaide club gear to grumble through his halftime sideline interview. Wetness is the essence of water, and water is the essence of life, or so Derek Zoolander says. For the Cats, pressure is the essence of attack, and attack is the essence of the team in hoops. Second half ferocity raised to obscene levels as the Cats whiffed blood, players across the board going into a fevered overdrive to repel any Port Adelaide designs on victory. As the home team was smothered, the visitors surged. 5-6-36 to Port's 1-3-9, ballooned Geelong's three-quarter time lead out to 36 points via the boots of Humphreys, Close, Manor, Dempsey, and Ollie Henry. And that was just a prelude. As Port players transformed into fourth quarter witches' hats, Jeremy Cameron and the Cats manifested into their most imperious and unsympathetic form. Tasked with simply picking their score, the Cats decided 7 final term goals would do the trick. Shannon Neal and Tyson Stengel inking their names into the books around a 5-goal haul from an irrepressible Jezza. Is there a better forward to watch in the game when operating at full gas? Jeremy Cameron, for me, is to AFL forward play what Jim Carrey was to comedy through the 90s and early 2000s. Irreverent in his precision, playful in chaos, unflappable and highly capable of the flapping of others. A lanky contortionist able to manufacture pipe cleaner limbs into delightfully grotesque or aesthetically pleasing artworks. A maniacal magician who can bend the footy, time, space, and the siren to his laconic will. A trickster god with an enchanted Sharon who on Saturday provided a meticulous dictionary definition of taking the piss. As did the Cats. Amazing what the return of a few key defensive weapons can do. Unsurprising that one of the game's best 21st century forwards can flourish when asked to form back into a spearhead in the absence of Captain Fantastic. Invigorating to see the mauling ferocity return and the goal-kicking accuracy. Set shots that hit posts or scampered wide against the Giants here sailed through the guts of goal. We're a long way from the business end of the season, but the Cats continue putting themselves in the frame for another shot at glory, despite the churn of player personnel. Cats 113, Port 39. Johnny, your opening thoughts.
Again, you've absolutely nailed that opening. Well done. Beautifully worded.
Thank you.
Beautifully executed. Just much like the Cats on the weekend in that second half. They executed pretty beautifully. That first half, it was an interesting first half. It was a bit of a seesawing, sort of didn't feel like we were in full control, but in control enough to not let them get too far ahead, which they could have if they kicked a bit straighter. But that second half was just exquisite. Ollie Dempsey was magnificent. Could have had 5-6 goals if he could, if he wanted to, if he kicked a bit straighter. Those kicks to his teammates were just that little bit sharper. I don't agree with the commentators when they said he should have just gone for a goal when he tried to pass to Stengel. I was like, nah, I like what he did. I like how he tried to bring teammates into the game. That's the Cats' way. Yeah, it's just a very nice way to respond to the Giants' loss, and not just respond, but respond pretty emphatically against a team that needs a win, needed a big win. They're at home. They've got all their stars in. We lost Dangerfield. We lost Jack Bowes early on. Yes, they lost a few players as well. But yeah, the Cats just responded beautifully and couldn't have been happier. What a way to start this sort of halfway through the Saturday. Can't remember what it was, like 4:15. But yeah, just an awesome game to watch, experience, and yeah, again, smash Port Adelaide. What more could you want as a Cats fan? Smashing a team that think they're finalists when they're just pretenders.
Absolutely. Sambo?
Yeah, it was good. I felt very, very good about this one. I felt good about it going into it. Felt good about it in the preview on the Patreon section. I did admit feeling shaky heading into the Giants game, whereas this one I just felt. I mean, obviously it's a different form in the opposition, all that kind of stuff. But you don't want to disrespect any opposition, and we were playing on their home deck, but we play it
Except
pretty
one.
well. Yeah, except one. And yeah, I felt pretty good going into it. It was a weird game. I guess the only kind of trepidation I had, the only kind of feeling of is this result in doubt, is just how it did sort of play out, as both of you guys have alluded to, how it was so sort of weird. Like I still don't really know exactly how to put my finger on what that first half felt like. Like it didn't I feel like Geelong were on top and dominant, but just not getting a lot of scores. But it also didn't feel like Port were then that classic story of the team that's being dominated, getting a whole heap off the turnover. It just felt very sort of scrappy without being like awful on skill. Like I wouldn't say the skill execution was bad. It's just nobody could kind of really move it with any great degree of like threat. It was like effective passes, and decent kicks, but just nobody could kind of crack it open. So there was probably, if I think about it, there's probably periods in there where I was like, is this just going to be a day where it just never happens and any team could run away with it? But they were brief dalliances with pessimism. And no, I felt good. I feel like the Cats were hot. They like it up there. They like playing that ground. Um,
Mm.
yeah, and it just never felt in doubt. It was one of the more relaxed game watching experiences I've had, I feel.
Yeah, definitely felt relaxed.
It, as you said, it's such a like we've hit it a few times, but like a really weird breakdown of a game. Like the fact that we spent, what was it when you look back at the match summary at the score worm, it took 16 and a half minutes or 16 minutes 45 seconds before we had a goal in the first quarter, and then it took us nearly 19 minutes, to get a goal in the second quarter. So got these two stretches, combined like 36 minutes of first half footy without a goal. And then it's just like, it was almost like, when you see someone have an arm wrestle, they're clearly one person is severely outmatched, but they're managing to hold form. But then once they lose a bit of stamina and grip, the inevitable end occurs. And that's sort of what it felt like after half time. Like, I think Ken Hinckley sort of put on, I would have said a bit of a brave face at half time. He didn't seem to feel overly concerned, but like the damn wall broke pretty quickly in the second quarter. It's 12 goals to 2 in the second half. Sorry. So I thought Geelong were significantly the better team. What was it? 12 goals 10 to 2 goals 3 across the second half, and it just felt like Geelong had 5, 6, 7, however many gears they needed, and Port had about two gears. And once Geelong went past second gear, it was just like they just throttled away. What did you chaps think of? First off, with the return of Jack Henry and Lawson Humphreys, I don't know if you want to take one player each or something, but or you just want to talk about them as a collective. But what do you think of their return? Obviously, it's been weeks in a row where we've conceded big scores. We get those guys back. We concede 39 points for the game. Did you feel those guys coming back were a big part of that difference? What sort of impact do you think they made?
Definitely. I was talking to Sam about this on the Saturday night of how much calmer, organised, and structured that defence was. And with Jack Henry back there, just being that next level headed guy who is so experienced, knows how the defence works, knows how it needs to work to be effective. And yeah, I feel like he just calmed everyone down and let everyone play their roles nicely. Like I thought it was SDK's one of his better games. Zach Guthrie was incredible again, just doing his part. Lawson Humphries was the same. I just felt like with Jack Henry back, you could just sense that there was a calmness about defence. They didn't seem panicked. They didn't seem rushed in the decision making. They all seemed like they knew what needed to be done at the right moments, and they weren't getting in each other's way. And I do believe it's because of Jack Henry's back there, getting back to his natural role of being a big time leader. And boy, I'm glad he's back. He's made a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting to like think about Henry and Stewart. Like I think it was Damien Barrett in his saying that like Stewart's probably Geelong's best defender. Like he was the most important for a long time, and he's probably the best player in their back line. But is Jack Henry their most important defender at the moment? Just with the difference that he makes. And I don't know if I have a clear answer, but I think it's an interesting talking point, especially with I guess the journey that Stewart's been on of how to make him most effective when he started getting tagged and all this sort of stuff. Like, I wouldn't say he got found out either, but people pretty quickly learned that Geelong were tearing them up because of Tom Stewart, and so it's so tough for him to be as effective as he once was. He's lost none of his skill, but his ability to like impact a game is maybe lessened a bit. And so I feel like having Henry there is essentially Tom Stewart 2.0 is so crucial. We don't have to figure necessarily a new plan. We could do the same plan, but with Jack Henry instead, and have Tom Stewart not there as when he's injured or when he's getting tagged or whatever. So I think it's really interesting. But Lawson Humphries is not equally as important, but like he's surprisingly important to the way that back line functions, given how new he is to it. Like I think our transition game just instantly so more weak compared to last week. So obviously Henry's the stalwart back there, stopping the organizing the troops and stopping the onslaught. But then that next step to turn around, Humphries just seems so vital. I do mean that in terms of importance, but also like in the more like literal sense of like he gives it vitality. I feel like he gives that halfback a real pulse. And yeah, man, when he's not there last week, and so having him back is kind of probably went a little unnoticed by me, I suppose. To be honest, like it was just kind of like, oh yeah, he's back there doing amazing things as a second. Like how many games has he played now? We added it up the other day.
He might have just cleared 20, maybe.
Yeah,
Lost
crazy.
That's
22, 23. Yeah,
that's insane. So yeah, no, awesome to have them both back. But I think both similar
20
in terms
games.
of Jack Henry. 20 games. Jack Henry is sneakily maybe our most important defender. And Lawson Humphries has just somehow in the games become one of our most important sort of transition defenders.
I'll just add some stats for you around that Jack Henry thing. And I was trying to wrestle with how to word that concept of like, obviously Stewart, I think Stewart's one of the best, like 3 or 4 players on Geelong's team, but how do you quantify what Jack Henry does? Because you go pound for pound, I don't think he's as good a footy player as Tom Stewart is. He's not as diverse, but look, here's some stats for you from the 2024 season. Jack Henry faced 63 contested defensive one-on-ones. That was 27 more than the next closest cat. He lost just 15 of them. He had a contested defensive loss rate of just 23.8%. The only player of Geelong's backline setup that had a lower rate than that was Tom Stewart. But Tom Stewart only faced 18 contested defensive one-on-ones compared to Jack Henry's 63 last year. You talk about the marking in 2024. Zach Guthrie led the team with 150 marks total. But you look at contested marks. Jack Henry had 31 contested marks last season. Next closest was Tom Stewart with 19. Intercept marks. Jack Henry had 68 intercept marks. Next closest, Zach Guthrie with 56. So I absolutely think that his impact, disposal efficiency. Here's another one: 80.8%. Jack Henry, second best for Geelong in the 2024 season. So there's so many ways that you can look at Jack Henry and sort of just go, he's so important to what we do. I think you said it, Sam, that he's so aggressive and confident with how he attacks an intercept opportunity, like so decisive. He just flies out and he picks the ball off. And I thought he made a huge difference. And I just think him coming back. We talked about it for weeks on the pod, that he was perhaps one of the most significant outs from the list. And probably the one that I would have decided, if I could have pulled one player back for the GWS game, it would have been Jack Henry. If I could have taken anyone off our injury list and put him back in the game, I would have taken him, because I just feel like he's so undervalued. So undervalued, not just by the AFL community. I think there's a lot of Geelong fans that still don't correctly weight his impact.
And I think him being there is what allowed some of the other backline players to have better games, like Sam de Koning. Sam de Koning was able to play a bit more of a traditional key back role. I thought he was able to just kind of follow a man, pick a man, and be involved in a bit more bodywork one-on-one. Also, a lot of votes going Mark O'Connor's way from some of the guys on the Hoops crew, and also coaches' votes. Mark O'Connor, I think, God, I can't remember. I don't think he was 8. I think he was 6 or 7 votes, coaches' vote. And again, I feel like it's because he was O'Connor seemed one to me that was a little bit liberated by Jack Henry coming back. I think O'Connor was pretty good. Was it which was his first game back? It wasn't last week, was it? Was it?
I think it was a Collingwood game. What's his
was it Collingwood, or did he come in for Easter Monday?
Oh, it might have been Easter Monday, yeah.
I can't remember.
Anyway, he's been back in for a few games, like a handful of games. And he's he's not quite Blixarf, but he's such a band-aid player. Bring him in and throw him around again. And I feel like he's had to play again a bit more of a fullback role, O'Connor, like on someone in the goal square, like which he's very handy at as well, but not necessarily his most natural habitat. And I feel like with Henry back, he was able to be a bit more liberated, a bit more freed up, able to get like get his intercept game going on a bit more, his transition game. I think O'Connor led the team for meters gained and intercept possessions.
800 meters.
And so that's and so that's obviously on him. I'm not in any way trying to take away from what he was able to do, but I feel like he can't do that if Jack Henry's not in the team and he's having to kind of play a more negative role.
It's so funny when you look at like Jack Henry's stats, and people will be going like, why are you talking so highly maybe of a guy who had 7 kicks and 6 marks, 3 spoils, but like he's worth his weight in gold. And this is where I think it's important. It's why we should never let the stats people totally overtake the game. Like I love stats, I love numbers analysis, but the other thing is you have to watch too.
Yeah,
you have to watch the game. In
gotta watch the games
because
you were talking.
Oh no, I was just saying like I think you can sometimes just see the impact. You can see the impact, and sometimes it's not necessarily by what the player does themselves. It's as you've just outlined. It's how they liberate other players to do things.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's all I was going to follow up with as well.
Yeah. But we can talk all we like about the back line, but like forward half pressure makes Geelong's world go round. We talked about, obviously said in the recap, wetness is the essence of water. Water is the essence of life. And the forward half pressure thing is so the essence of Geelong. I thought there was a real lift. Would you guys agree with me that was our best pressure effort in a half of footy since the Fremantle game? And is that us or is that the opposition? Where did you rate that effort? Because I rated it fairly highly, but I also think it's fair to question. Again, it's against an opposition that did turn into witches' hats. Well, we turned them into witches' hats in the second half.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I think our
pressure?
pressure was. I think our pressure was good. I do think the Collingwood and Adelaide games were pretty high pressure, like just from an eye test. Like I never look at the bloody pressure rating, but from an eye test, I feel those. But maybe that's just because of the feel of the game, because those opposition teams were also laying on so much pressure, whereas this time it felt like we were laying on a lot of pressure, and it wasn't necessarily a highly pressurized game because it wasn't coming both ways, sort of thing. But I mean, sometimes that can be like when it's hard to maintain pressure, when you sort of when the game it doesn't feel like it necessarily requires it, and that can allow teams to get back into the game, to get back on their feet if they're not bringing the pressure, and you sort of meet them in the middle. You only apply as much pressure as it feels like you need to apply. Whereas the Cats really put the foot down and went, no, we're gonna apply pressure here as if the final, as if we're playing the Scum in a grand final or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it felt like we weren't we were out there to prove ourselves and keep pushing our football as opposed to just meet Port with whatever they wanted to handle.
Yeah, they really didn't put any pressure, and I reckon it was the way Ken Hinkley was going about the second half by going, we're going to slow it down, apparently said, and control the game. And it's sort of like, that's like the worst thing you can do against this Cats team. And it's even more shocking that that's what he was going for when he was a part of this Cats team earlier in his career, when he knows how the Cats play. You can easily see how the Cats play each and every single week. If you play slow, the Cats are going to get you, and that's exactly what happened. And Cats just smelt the blood in the water, and it just felt like they were hungry for it constantly. Like I didn't feel like any player looked like they were dragging their feet. They just wanted that ball more constantly than the Port Adelaide players, and the Port Adelaide players really just, as you said, Jake, it looks like they were witches' hats really at the end, and it really felt like they just had no fight left in them. And it's, pretty disappointing for Ken Hinkley that the team can sort of just fold that easily when it's your last coaching season. You expect a bit more, and I think Port fans would feel the same. So, that's on the players to find a bit of spirit. But, when I did talk about Port, the Cats just found that spirit, found that fight, found that weakness in the game and exploited it to the fullest extent and just made them pay.
I'll
Again.
also say that as much as you say, we're not here to talk about Port. And I agree. I did find it funny that I think the skill execution being the scapegoat for a loss is pretty valid. Like I feel like we've had those games where we've gone, oh, if we could just execute a bit better. We've had wins. Like I think Sam Mitchell talked about it in the Easter Monday one where their execution killed them. I think that's fair. I think McRae talked about the Collingwood game. Execution killed them, like some fundamentals and kicking in front of goal. That's fair. Ken Hinkley using turnovers and like kicking their like fundamental efficiency for this game feels like delusional to me. I don't know if I'm being harsh here, but that's one of the apart from the injuries and the conditions and blah 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 blah. One of the things that he said was our efficiencies in that, like, Geelong are really like good. He's like, they'll kill you off turnover. For some reason, I've lost turnover stat here, but I'm pretty sure I looked it up and they actually beat us on turnovers.
No,
but if not,
they had
either way, it was really close.
They had 3 more turnovers.
Okay, so regardless, it's really close,
negligible.
And whereas you look at clearances, pitch clearances, and we smashed them in all of those. We beat them in contested possession. Like it feels really like a real misread of the game to me to say that Port were trying and then turning it over constantly, when it feels more like we were belting them up in the middle, and occasionally when they did get it forward, we would turn it over.
The one that
Yeah.
really just says that that's a crazy thing just to say is that, yeah, so they had more uncontested possessions than us, nearly by 20. So how's your skill execution? It's more of the effort, really, of just they're not
And
bringing that
also,
shit in.
their disposal efficiency was only 3.4% behind
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
70, and it's bang on with their season average.
Yep. Yeah, I think I agree with you, Sam. It's like that's just a poor man's excuse of going, this is why we lost because of turnover. So 3
Yeah.
differences in turnovers. That's not gonna be the reason why you lost.
It can be, like I said, it can be valid,
be.
and basically what it means is we're a good team. We just couldn't execute those kicks in a crunch. Whereas I feel like the issues in this game started long before their last disposal.
But the
Out
more valid
tackled,
excuse,
out hunted.
more valid excuse would be there was 2 players on the bench. Our players were getting more exhausted, more tired. Like that's a more valid excuse than just going.
You use that one too. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, just use that one. Just go. We lost.
Well,
3 of our players were 2 on the bench.
Mm.
But you can accept that because that's a pretty major setback having only 2 players on the bench to rotate. But and then you can also say that, well, we only had 3 players on the bench, and we still ran out that game as if we had a full bench. So yeah, it just means your team's shit, and our team's better.
I think too, the other thing that stood out was like, Geelong got back to doing that pressure thing that we wanted them to do in the forward 50, and I said on the season, Geelong averages 22% of their tackles inside 50, and on the weekend that was up to 28%. So very close to
15 tackles inside
30%. Out of 52, and that's what sort of the number that I'm sort of tracking these days as a measure of whether Geelong's having a good day is what percentage of our tackles are inside 50.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be a bit of a key indicator.
Below our average on tackles, but bang on tackles inside 50 average. So yeah, that's
exactly, and I think that's the indicator for Geelong this season. I think it was a couple of seasons ago, we were looking like primarily at like pressure acts. You could almost chart at times when Geelong was on and when they weren't by like how many pressure acts in the front half versus, I think tackles inside 50 is a really good one for this Geelong team. And we've had some losses this season and you're looking at it like, oh wow, it doesn't matter what the total tackle count was, but it does matter that our tackles inside 50 were below double digits. I think this Cats team needs to have somewhere between 10 and 20 tackles inside 50 to really be to be performing how they would want to be performing. I think it's an interesting one. Like if Ken Hinkley said he wanted to slow it down, I think they showed a great blueprint of how you can control the game against Geelong last year at Cardinia Park, but it's not through a lack of speed. It's not through slowing the game. You can take control of the game at speed. If the goal was to slow it down, that's borderline malpractice. I would have thought.
It's just
this team.
I've scrubbed through the halftime break because I'm looking for the bloody the interview to see what he said, and I can't find it. They've erased it from the internet.
As I say, it's like going to a burglar's house with your TV and going, "Here's a TV. I'm going home now." That's what Kenny Linkley basically did for us.
Yeah, and the Cats. So yes, we like the forward 50 pressure. It's a massive deal. I thought the best example of it too, Sambo. You talked a lot at times about like structure and like disciplined pressure. About like basically deploying the right amount of resources to the point of attack. Like rather than having 3 people tackle the one player, there was a great example. I can't remember what quarter it was in, but the move basically, it was Port Adelaide trying to probe into Geelong's back 50. And they were on the far wing and they keep trying to switch it inside and find an angle, and they keep getting pressured. And eventually Brad Close puts on a smother. The ball ricochets up, I think, to Stengel. Geelong counterattacks and goals. And it was like, at that moment, that was the one that was like, stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. Like, Geelong were just too good. Port didn't have a way really to get back in the game, I thought. And I thought that was sort of the emblematic moment. To me, that was like, wow, geez, this is well and truly cooked. I can't remember when it was, but in the game.
It was
but
late in the
I just thought
last quarter.
we didn't run around like headless chooks.
Mm.
We didn't run around like headless chooks. Put it that way. I thought we
sure that
pressured
was
with a lot of discipline.
either Cameron's first goal in the last. I think it was Cameron's first goal in the last quarter. Was that pressure actually saw? And yeah, that was that. Yeah, it's just Port had nowhere to go, and it's just like a wave and a wave, and it just kept coming and coming and coming, and then gone. The Cats were gone, and it was just two players really that put on that pressure.
Yeah.
So good.
And I think it was just a very professional performance from Geelong, and it did have a bit of that ring of like, the game looked so different after half time. And again, is that another example of, we have one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the league? The game looked a certain way all through the first half, and then after half time, Geelong's team comes out and just is transformed and runs away with the game. Like, it's not the first time we've seen this. And I think Chris Scott's he's a good one. I mean, it's an understatement, obviously, but sort of tongue in cheek, like,
incredible coach.
He's a master. What else do we want to talk about? Do you want to talk at all about Jez's, worrying form, and should we be concerned that he might be, in the twilight of his career?
Most definitely.
I have a feeling we're going to get into that in votes, maybe, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's close to Reece Stanley, like just not far from the crypt. He's looking a bit rusty.
Put him in the crypt.
Put him out to the farm.
Yeah. Take him up north to the farm.
He's only second in the cold.
Yeah.
I know. I'm very concerned. Very concerned.
Very concerned.
Do you guys think, though, too, just my take on this is simply, he's not out of form at all. Dangerfield, whenever he steps on the field, is the best player, usually, of either side, depending on his form and fitness. Like, he just absorbs so much of the oxygen in the forward 50, but it's like, you take him out, it's like, oh yeah, Jeremy Cameron's like the best key forward in the game if you let him run around and just do that thing. Like, is it that simple?
I think it's sort of like that. Jeremy Cameron's got that idea of going, I don't need to play at my best every game because Dangerfield's here. He's going to take some of the best defenders, and if he doesn't take the mark, he's more likely to burst through. I'm just going to play on the outskirts, get a goal here each week. And then when Dangerfield's got that injury, Cameron's like, this is my forward line now. I'll take control and I'll do the big things. Because you don't need two big forwards doing the same thing, going for the same packs, going for the same mark, going for the same ground ball gets. You just need that one big guy, and that's Dangerfield. And then, Dangerfield, it's pretty, as you said, there's Jeremy Cameron, who's the best full forward in the game, really. So, yeah, I was a little bit worried when Dangerfield got that injury. I'm not worried anymore after seeing Cameron. That vanished very quickly.
It's Danger's injury is very much like one of those ones where having one game, I'm not at all worried. And as we win more games without him, I won't be worried. But he is such a presence, and we know how much he can do, that any game we lose without him, we will kind of go, I wonder what would happen with Danger. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just effective enough that, like, I'm not worried that we can't win a game, but when we won't win a game, I will have in my mind, I feel like Danger could have maybe put that on his shoulder at some point. But there is all that stuff we discussed, but also just the way that it's not just about presence and all that kind of stuff. It's also the way they structure the forward line. Danger gets targeted so much from us. Like, we get to him so much. Like, he's, like you said, Jake, he's pretty much the best player of both teams most weeks. So you're going to kick it to him. You're going to kick it to him, and Jeremy Cameron kind of becomes this second fiddle, whether through his own sort of choices or the people kicking to them or a structural. But he becomes a bit more of like a roamer. Like, Jeremy Cameron, you'll see float around the back of packs a little bit more, trying to pick up if Danger crashes it and brings it to ground. Cameron's more likely to be the one in there trying to get it, or even laying a forward 50 tackle on the person that does pick it up. He's also more likely to roam, pick up some disposals in the halfback, down the wing. So without Dangerfield there, he didn't have that freedom to roam as much, but it did allow him to really flourish in the forward line with that. That's like, when you get a concentration of objective, sometimes when you've got the liberty to roam, it's amazing for us to watch Cameron, but it's kind of like he's very effective on like 100 different things in 90% of the ground, so it spreads his effect across the whole ground. Whereas once Dangerfield went down, not that I think it's a blessing in any way. I can't wait for Danger to come back. Glad it doesn't sound like it's too serious. But the uptick of it was that I think Cameron was just able to laser his focus in a little bit more and getting targeted more, taking more marks, having more chances to kick too. Like, you have to kick your way into form too. Like, it's hard to be a forward if you're only getting 3 or 4 looks at it. Miss 2 of them, you missed 50% of your shots. If you get 9 marks or even targeted 9 times, you just get that many more chances to get your eye in and get your confidence right. So I think when Danger's in there, I think Stengel, Henry, Cameron, and Neil all suffer from the same thing a little bit, which is, I've taken a mark, I better bloody kick this because I might not get it kicked to me again. So I think that's just it's a byproduct of it. So Dangerfield will come back, and I can't wait. But I don't think this is a blip. Like, there's a lot of people trying to say this is a blip and that it was junk time goals. I actually don't think. Maybe 3 of Cameron's goals were what you'd class as junk time in terms of Port had more or less given up at that point. But he still had to work really hard for those goals in those individual moments. And I think the other 4 of those goals weren't junk time. I would say they were like nailing the coffin, kind of like putting the game to rest. That isn't junk time to me. When the margin is still winnable, when there's still time on the clock, those are some of the most important goals when you're heading into the back half of a game and you're on top and they haven't really swung a punch. It can be really, as all seen, any football fan has seen, if you leave any light in that coffin lid, it can seal your doom in 10 to 12 minutes time. So those couple of goals from Cameron early in the 4th, I think are really underrated and crucial goals to just put down.
Well, just consider this. Port Adelaide get in front midway through the second quarter. Dangerfield's gone down, injured. Jack Bowes is down. Sam Powell-Pepper puts them in front. Jezza then, in the space of 5 minutes at the end of the second quarter, at the end of the first half, puts Geelong's nose back in front, one of which an outrageous set shot from the forward right-hand pocket up against the boundary. So he puts us in front. Third term opens. Jezza, 3 goals inside the first 8 minutes of the final term. He kicks 3 goals straight. At the 3.5-minute mark, at the 5-minute 57-second mark, and at the 8-minute 19-second mark. So he literally closes the door on them with his finishing skills. And yeah, it's massive. And it's so good. I don't know. It's so good to see him playing, getting that freedom again. And for a bit of stats context on his season, he's had 3 games where he's kicked 4 goals, and he's now had a game where he's kicked 7. So 4 of his 10 games this year, he's kicked 4+ goals. He hasn't gone scoreless. He hasn't gone goalless yet in a game. I think he's doing just fine. He's averaging 5.5 marks, 2.7 goals per game. And he's only kicked 12 behinds. He's 27-12 for the year. So I think Jeremy Cameron is playing all right.
But we're not spending any more time on it. because every 3 months a person in North Queensland is torn to pieces by a crocodile.
That's right. We're not spending any more time on it because we might get to these in votes. But I've got a question for John, if I may.
Mm,
May I have
You
the
may.
floor to ask John a question?
Please.
And I don't know about you guys. We may get to this player in votes anyway. But coming into the side, Sam was on the hype train.
Yes.
Sam was on the Bailey Smith hype train. Johnny not so much. Johnny tempered.
so
Jake
much.
Jake a little tempered. Jake a little tempered as well. First couple of games, Sam also loses a little bit of enthusiasm, not through like any great specific means, but just I think as we said last week, we just questioned the effectiveness of the cumulative disposals he was having, and he tightened those screws up. Did Bailey Smith? And then we discussed it again, and the quote was, John, that you still didn't think he's the player that can win us a flag. There's a two-part question. The first part is, do you hold strong to that belief? Or do you think maybe, just maybe, this team could win a flag on Bailey Smith's back?
If he continues to play the way he's playing, then absolutely we can win a flag of Bailey Smith's back. He's playing some incredible football.
Conjecture from the fans.
No, I am starting to believe big time that Bailey Smith can win us a flag. He can win a Brownlow. He can win all the awards this season. He's just played.
That'd be sweet.
Yeah, no, he's like, as I said, those first couple of weeks, we put the question out there going, this is what we would like to see him do. Get those 30 plus disposals, get the efficiency up above 50% each game. And since that, we then did that podcast, he's doing it, but
he's punched well above
what we were expecting. And yeah, it's hard to ignore the Bailey Smith effect. Absolutely,
yeah. And I've got
it's punching you right in the face.
I've got just a couple of things each week as we talked about, and this week was one I didn't expect, which was him doing the pre-game huddle. It was when they cut to Geelong, it was Bailey Smith giving everyone the rev up. Like I didn't necessarily expect or even ask for him to be like leadership material, and especially with his off-field antics, like regardless of where that goes, if he sort of tidies that up or not, I didn't necessarily expect him to be the player giving a speech before the game. So that surprised me. That surprised me a lot. And the second question was, and this was I was gonna ask you the same, whether you were a doubter or a believer now of his ability to win us that, because I think that's the thing. Not that he's a good player. We never questioned he was a good player. And we never questioned that he was affecting the team a lot. Like he was helping this team now. But now he's at the point where you're kind of like, we are kind of winning off his back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the follow up, regardless of your initial answer, was, does this weekend coming? We're not going to get into the preview here because that's for the Patreon. But does this weekend coming, the result and his impact on the game, do you think it's a big enough game that it will affect you one way or the other? Say he falls apart and he has a really down week. Is that enough to make you go, see, this is what I'm worried about? Like come the big highlights. Or
no, I don't think so. I think we should be expecting that one game where he just can't put it together. He can't do everything correctly. Because the people at the end of the day, people have bad days. They can't perform at the highest level consistently week in, week out. So yeah, I won't be going, this is what I was afraid of. Be like, it's still early in the season, still a bit more time to build up into it. I'm expecting a lot from the Bulldogs, going to him and tagging him and trying to get him out of the game. So I'm not expecting him to have a massive game. I'm expecting to have a fairly good game, but I won't be disappointed if he doesn't stay at this level, because it is coming against his old side. He said some stuff about Ballarat. So there's a lot of context behind all that. And so yeah, I won't be surprised if they do heavily monitor Bailey Smith, the Dogs. So yeah, I'm not expecting. Yeah, I won't be disappointed if he has a terrible game or a bad game. If he has a terrible game, that might change a few things. But as I said, I think the Dogs are going to get into him a lot.
I don't know if you can class it as a big game anyway. It's down at Kardinia Park, not at the G. We know he's going to play well at the G once it comes finals time. Yeah, no, he's incredible. He's ticked all the boxes, Sambo. He has changed my cold dead heart with what he does on the footy field. I can live without the other shit, and it's not that I'm being like somebody think of the children. It's more just like you're so good. You're everything that you put out there as being. You are a legitimate superstar footy player. So that can be enough. Don't feel that you have to say it. And I know people will say, oh, but we want people with personality. Personality's fine. But I was really very fucking impressed that when they tried to draw him on the Dogs game coming up and they made some little, invited him to say something again about Ballarat or about whatever, that he played a straight bat.
Yeah.
Let I
played
don't know,
at
just
Geelong
grow
away
into
for-
that. Correct. That felt like that felt like the Geelong Bailey Smith that we want to see. So
do you know what didn't feel like the Geelong
absolutely
way was
incredible.
Cameron's response when he was asked about Danger's hamstring. Did you see that interview?
No, what happened?
The post game. I can't remember the exact quote, but they basically asked him about it, and he was like, "Oh, he's pretty old. He was probably due for one."
Love that.
I do remember that.
Love that.
Oh, good old Jeremy Cameron. He really just doesn't give two shits what he bet.
No.
Anything really. It's just like, yeah, I'll just say how it is. Whatever.
Pretty genuinely himself.
Yeah. On and off the field.
The key is for me,
it's only
and I
1
said
to 2 weeks.
Sorry, you go.
Only 1 to 2 weeks for Danger.
Danger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Short term.
Not sure about Jack Bowes yet.
That
hasn't come back, so that's feeling like it might be a 3 to 4 medium term.
I think that the key with Cameron being able to dish it out is that I don't think he really gets wound up the other way. I think you could count on one hand the amount of times I've seen Jezza get psyched out in a game sort of thing and be put off his game by anybody. And that'll be the question for me. Bailey Smith is still only relatively young. I think he's only 24, 23, 24.
Yep. 24.
Like, just make sure that you don't manufacture a situation that allows an opponent to get an advantage against you. You know, like you can talk as much shit as you want if you can do it in such a way that it doesn't come back to bite you on the ass. So if you can play through it, if he turns up, if he talks all the shit he wants to, he talks his shit and then turns around and has 40 touches and 2 goals against the Dogs, you can go, oh, well, say what you fucking want.
Yeah.
But if you turn around and have 7 touches and don't impact the game, then it's like, all right, maybe let's bring it back to just grinding out your performances. But yeah, we're gonna see. It's only Monday night we're recording. I've already got a few butterflies about that game. It's gonna be a big one.
It's only 2 days away.
Let's rip through some votes. Votes for players who stood out to us and did other stuff good too. Sambo, you lead us off, then John, then me, and we'll just discuss after we give the votes.
Having said all that, spoiler alert, I didn't give Bailey the 3. I am pretty sure. I'm going off memory here. I don't have it written in front of me, but I went my 1 vote to Tom Atkins, my 2 votes to Bailey Smith, and my 3 votes together.
1 vote,
Johnny.
Mark O'Connor. 2 votes, the Bailey Smithicus, and 3 votes, Jeremy Cameron.
Nice. I went 1 vote to Iceland. Give him a fucking vote, you fucks. I went 1 vote to Tom Atkins. I went 2 votes to Bailey Smith. And I went 3 votes to Jessica Cameron because I honestly thought I was going to be the only one that gave him 3 votes. So I was like, well, someone better.
I'm such a sucker for
honestly,
midfield player like stats, tackles, and pressure acts and shit. But those tasty 7 snags is pretty hard to ignore.
Yeah. Tough to ignore. Especially when I love that.
You know what?
The footage of Cameron kicking the set shot from the boundary on the drop punt. It's like the fourth fan's like, Jezza, 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 and then he kicks it. It's like, get fucked.
And he turns around with his hand on his hip and just smiles at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I reckon it's just one of those things too with Jez that, like, let's be realistic. What is he, 32?
Yeah.
Like, I it's that thing of like what Tom Atkins got to 34. Even if Jez magically managed to play like 36 or something, it's only 4 more years to watch him play or whatever it is. Like, you don't know how many times you get to see a player like that kick 7 goals for fun, take the piss, and it's just like, I don't know. Let's just give him. I'm giving him the 3 votes. They were both impressive. Probably worth talking about the 1 vote more than anything. We've talked a lot about Bailey Smith and how good he was. We've talked a lot about Jessica Cameron. I also gave my 1 vote to Tommy Atkins. Let's start with Johnny on Mark O'Connor. What was it about the performance you loved, Johnny, for Mark O'Connor?
I wouldn't say loved. It was a good performance. He only got me 1.
I mean,
brutal.
There's 20 players who missed on votes.
Send him to the Johnny school for kicking good, learning to do other stuff good too.
Yeah, put him in the twos.
No, it was a great performance by Mark O'Connor. In all seriousness, yeah, he's looking imperious in defences, and as Sam said, with Jack Henry back into defence, he definitely looked a lot more freer to do what he used to do in the old hoops when he was a bit younger, which was that link up from defence to the midfield to the forward line. And it just felt, yeah, he brought the pressure, he brought the intent, and he brought that freedom that he enjoys a lot as an Irishman. And yeah, some of those kicks he was nailing from defensive 50 were very nice.
Led the team for effective disposals too.
I believe that,
95.
Jeez.
95.7% kicking efficiency and 96.4% disposal efficiency.
But even his just raw effective disposals, he was number 1 with 27. Because even if you go to kicking efficiency, he's below Connor O'Sullivan and Jack Bowes, but both of them only had 4 effective disposals. So the efficiency versus the amount is also impressive.
He had both quality and quantity. Bailey Smith, I wanted to talk about just to say that he had 68.4% kicking efficiency. That's more than enough. And we remarked a couple of times, Sambo, how much his kicking efficiency has improved. Disposal efficiency, he went at 80%, which was good for 7th best on the team, only behind Mark O'Connor, Brian Myers, O'Sheen Mullen, Mitch Duncan, Jack Henry, and Jed Buse. I must have existed in a total fucking mind hole because I don't remember Mitch Duncan playing this game at all. To be totally honest, I was literally going to say it was good that we got to give Mitch Duncan a rest.
Well, I mean, I think maybe he did get a bit of a rest, but 13 effective disposals, he was in amongst it. Didn't he cop a whack at one point too? I feel like was it him that really deserved a high free kick that he didn't get, where a tackle went like around his cheek,
probably,
and the umpire's just blindside.
Sounds like a story Duncan. That would be true.
And you're just like,
Sammo, why'd you give you?
I want to go back to bed.
Why did you? Blixarves. Why did you give why'd you give Atkins your one vote? What was it that you
Just because
appreciated of his
he's my
performance?
favorite and I'm biased. No, look, it's he's so consistent now. I kind of have to fight not to give
Yeah.
him a vote or two for me because he's like we always again we say this every friggin' week. Our votes are like the perfect version of that player's game. And the problem with Tom Atkins is
Yeah.
he's probably not on a lot of other people's votes,
He's
but he's
perfect.
always doing exactly what I want him to do. Like he's
Yeah.
the perfect Tom Atkins. So it's always hard. There's some people. He's the bottled Tom Atkins that we could finally let out of the lab. There is some players that missed out on votes for me that maybe we'll talk about in the Patreon show when we empty the notebook. But yeah, Tom Atkins got in there just because well, first of all, I feel like he was doing Tom Atkins things even when the game was weird, when the game was cagey, and like he was, what is he our third goal kicker? Fourth goal kicker? He kicked his goal was early, like his goal felt really important. I think we'd kicked 2 or 3, and then Port had answered, and he was the one to then answer back. And that is also, I think, a crucial goal. Not like the answer back goal. The retaliation after a bit of a retaliation is such a vital one to get because that's what keeps your noses in front to kind of go, okay, they can keep kicking with us as long as we just get that extra one here and there early in the game. And so that was, I thought, yeah, I loved that he was put in a position where he had to kick a goal because you could see any if he hadn't got, because he got the 50, didn't he? That brought him in. I was like, if he was like 3 meters outside of the goal square, I think he's passing this off. But he just bloody was forced to. Everyone else turned their back, so he couldn't pass it to him. So I love that he was forced to kick a goal. God, there was another. Oh, also Freeze 4. He led the game for Freeze 4. Led the second on the team, equals second of the game for center clearances. I think he was in our top sort of 6 or 7 for score involvements too. Like I thought his forward half work was really good this week as well. He was involved in the Stengel brilliance. It was him that was able to get it up. He led the team for contested possessions, which we all know I'm an absolute sucker for. I love those possession numbers, but I really like to see the contested possession numbers as well. And he also led the game, I think, for ground ball gets. Yes, led the game for ground ball gets. Led the team for forward 50 ground ball gets. Yeah, I just felt like he was efforting the way only he can effort. Didn't lead in the tackles for once, but he was still up around it. Like he was still in the top 4 on the team. Yeah, I just am always enamored with his work rate and the ferocity with which he tackles it. But he's really starting to add dimension to his ball movement now as well. So yeah, that's what have you picked up on, Jay?
Sorry. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just dropped an enormous fart here.
I told you to invest in that second mic. How are we gonna get the ASMR chat going if you don't put the second mic on your seat?
That's right.
Yep. Exactly.
How are we gonna package and sell that butt cheek reverb?
He led the game for clearances as well.
Yeah,
and
he's a beast.
Equal in the game for goal assists. Sorry.
Yeah, three, didn't he? 3 goal assists.
Yeah.
All the reasons you mentioned was why he got my votes. He also had equal season high for him in contested possessions, which was, that's massive. He's got 118 contested possessions this year, to 79 uncontested. I was just looking at his stats compared to some of his teammates, like tackles. He's averaging 9.7 tackles. The next closest is Bailey Smith with 5.8, Sean Manor with 5.4. Pressure acts, he's averaging 29 per game. Bailey Smith is the next closest with 21. So I think you're right. Like this is the perfect Tom Atkins. It's like the Anchorman, cologne cupboard. Like you would pull out it's not Sex Panther, but it's Tom Atkins brand of perfume, and like this season is what you would bottle if you wanted peak perfect Tom Atkins scent. Let's let's bottle some of this. Averaging 19 touches a game, not a huge disposal winner. 9.7 tackles per game and 5.6 clearances per game. So, yeah, just immense numbers. So that's it. That's all. That's your blooming lot for the public part of the show. If you want to jump on board, become a paying member of the Hoops Crew Patreon, you can do that. That is within your power. That is entirely your choice. I would implore you to do it. I have an electricity bill that needs to be paid next week. So if you want to give us a few shekels, much obliged. That's it. We'll be back on next Tuesday. Obviously, we're going over. If you haven't grasped it, we're now going to go talk on the Patreon, just in case you hadn't realized that bit. But we will be back in your public ear holes and in front of your public eyeballs next Tuesday, hopefully discussing an exceptional win over who we're playing again? The Dogs on Thursday night. So until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.